Hey guys, welcome back. It is June 25th, 2025, Wednesday, Redness Day. We're live. We're going to be talking about the MGM, Bernard Sindler, the fire, and the possible mob arson. Welcome back, guys. It's Mob Vlog. Red Wemette, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Fantastic. It's good to have you with again. Wow. And today we're going to be talking about the MGM Grand. The original MGM Grand was built in 1973. And it was the site of the worst fire in the history of the state of Nevada. In 1980, November 21st, 7:30 in the morning, fire broke out inside the MGM Grand. And I've read different accounts of this. There's different numbers as to how many people died. November 21st, 1980, not 81, 1980. 81 was the Hilton fire. I get those confused sometimes. I got a lot of history stuck up here. 85 people. That's what Wikipedia says. I read in Bernard Sindler's book, which we're going to talk about today, that it was, this is Bernie's book.
87. He said 87.
He said 87 plus 11 workers, which would make it 98 total. And then there's accounts of people jumping from the windows. He said in his book 2 people jumped. Wikipedia says 1 person jumped. Other reports that I say, you remember it as a lot of people jumping.
I watched this on TV in Chicago, and they had it on, and I saw a lot of people jumping from the balconies. The people that jumped from the roof, the helicopters weren't going to take them. The helicopters left, and they were just abandoned up there. They jumped. Yeah. But the thing I remember most is the bed sheets that were tied together and hanging off of the balconies, and people trying to climb down them. And when they got down, maybe, there you go. When they got down maybe 2 or 3 floors, they'd let go. And they just couldn't take the smoke inhalation or whatever gases were inside.
Yeah. Well, that's a few things that happened. So when they built the MGM, they said, hey, do you want to spend an extra $150,000, $190,000 to install sprinklers? And they said, for what? Well, in case there's a fire. That's how much is that going to cost? $150,000? We don't need that.
That was only for one section. The actual sections where the people were staying, that was all covered. The downstairs commercial was exempt. They didn't have to do it. So that's when they said, oh, we don't have to do it. Okay, how much is it? Nah, we don't want to pay a little under $200,000. We don't want to. We're going to cut it.
Why spend that money on a fire? Everything back then was decorated out of PVC, polyvinyl chloride. Molded plastic. That's what they decorated the inside of this casino with. And when it burned,
not to mention the ceiling, the whole ceiling just flashed. Gone.
Well, yeah, the ceiling, the adhesive in the ceiling was extremely flammable as well. So, but when PVC burns, it chemically transitions into a chlorine gas, a mustard gas in essence. And the air conditioning systems were supposed to shut down, and they didn't. So the cold air return sucked all that gas in, pumped it up into the hotel rooms. People, were just waking up in the morning. It was 7:30 in the morning. They're waking up, they're choking. And in case of a fire, don't use the elevators, use the stairwells. And people ran into the stairwells, and when the doors shut behind them, they were trapped. They couldn't access back to their floors. And the gas
behind them. When they went in there, it was one-way door, locked. So when it shut, that was it. You couldn't get back in.
Correct. So a lot of people died in the stairwells. It was horrific. One firefighter lost his life, and according to this book, I played the hand I was dealt by Bernard Sindler, it was 11 workers. There were 11 workers that also perished. So I don't know the exact number, but let's take a quick hello to the comment section, guys. David Grimpy, Brady, Robert Murphy, what's happening? Grandpa Red, you got a new nickname. Christina Morris, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Frank Ferraro, Robert Murphy, Mr. Hoffman, Keith Hilton, and Midwest Lee. What's going on? Nice to see you guys. Welcome into the chat, and Shari Ives. Looks like Shari Ives. So welcome in, guys. All right. So 1980, worst fire in the state of Nevada. MGM Grand going up in flames. And Bernard Sindler, and I'm going to tell you, I met Bernie. It was an accidental meeting, but I met him. I was going to meet Jack, and Jack we've had him on the show before. Jack Hayden. He was friends with Peter Lawford, and he knew the whole JFK story. He told it to us a couple times on here before he passed away. But I went to visit Jack. He did a little stay in the hospital, and then he was doing a little rehab in a nursing home here in town. And I went to see him, and I walked in his room, and he wasn't there. And I said to the nurse, "Where's Jack?" And they said, "He's in Bernie's room." I said, "Bernie who?" And they said, "Well, they both do magic." I said, "Well, what are you talking about? Like, Jack, what do you mean? There's another magician in this nursing home?" And so I saw Bernard Sindler on the local news tell his story about how he thought that Virginia Hill's brother killed Benjamin Siegel. I heard that story, and I thought, damn, that's pretty plausible. You know, I mean, I've never heard this before. I walk into the room, and Bernie's laying there in the bed, and Jack and him are doing card tricks for each other. I mean, he had his eyebrows painted on, his hair is painted on, and thick tinted glasses from the 70s. "You're Bernard Sindler." "Yeah." I said, "Dude, I do the mob tour. Tell me the story, please. Sit down." We made each other's afternoon. It was great. So I read Bernie's book. And shame on me for not reading it 4 years ago, but I just read it. And in the book, he surmises that the mob, that the Chicago outfit, is the ones who started the MGM on fire. I never heard this before, but he, in the book, his friend, he tells the story because he heard. I mean, it's kind of a theory that his friend told him, and he kind of added it up and went, "Yeah, this makes sense." But I read, what was it, at least the 2 chapters. I read the 2 chapters about the fire to Red last night, and Red kind of laughed.
He read to me out of the book. He read about maybe 2 hours out of the book.
I read to Red at night. It helps him go to sleep. Bedtime stories.
I'm throwing some more pink at you.
I'm getting a new camera, man. I'm too red. I should be red. Should call me Red Flowers.
Yeah, Red Flowers. Roses. We'll call you Roses.
Red roses.
Roses. Red
Stop
flowers.
it. All right. So here's a couple pieces of this. And you guys, I highly recommend go read this book if you're interested in this, because he talks about Benjamin Siegel, who killed him. He talks about this MGM fire theory. And he talks about all the beautiful women that he was married to in his life, which.
And it's on Amazon on Kindle. It's only like
there you go.
$6
There you go.
on Kindle.
Yeah, it's a free. If you're a Kindle member, you can read it for free. If you have that, whatever.
Well, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get it for free.
So it opened in 1973, the MGM, and the fire happened in 1980. So let's break this down first. 1973 to 1980. In those years, the mob was running the Desert Inn, the Stardust, the Hacienda, the Fremont, the Marina, the Tropicana, and they're skimming millions and millions of dollars off the top of these casinos.
Also the dunes.
And the dunes and the sands and so they're there. They're skimming millions off the top of these casinos. So you got to report your earnings to the Nevada Gaming Control Board. That's you report the earnings, the taxes. You pay taxes. The mob's skimming the money off the top, so they aren't reporting as much earnings. Corean comes in, builds the MGM Grand, and is running things on the up and up. And now it's the largest casino in Vegas at the time when it opened. It's the MGM Grand. I mean, this is 2,000 hotel rooms, massive. And he's reporting all the earnings, paying all the taxes. So you think this isn't making the mob-run casinos look bad? They're not paying up their, the control board's got to look at it and go, well, how can the MGM be paying this much and these guys only be paying this much? They're not reporting everything. They can't be. I mean, sure, the MGM's larger, but still the numbers don't add up. So it puts the spotlight on these other casinos. So if they eliminated the MGM Grand.
Mind you, this is his theory.
This is the theory. Red laughed at this. I mean, I can't tell you how many times
Red is still
I would read something in the book and Red would laugh. Like when he wrote in there, Alan Glick was a representative of the San Diego mob. You laughed.
He also read that Lefty Rosenthal was Chicago's representatives in Las Vegas.
He was a Chicago boss.
Yeah,
Lefty Rosenthal, which isn't true. So I mean, no, we know this, but why? I mean, I guess from his perspective, maybe things were a little different in his mind. He wasn't. I don't know. You guys got to read the book, and then you guys got to tell. Has anybody in the chat read this book? So
nobody has read this book.
No. Come on. There's only just like 20
guarantee it. There must be a conspiracy theorist somewhere that we have that would say, "Yeah, he knew what he was talking about."
I don't know. I mean, it's like so he said
he worked at which casino did he work at?
He worked at a lot of them,
and they fired him.
Well, we worked at the MGM, and they fired him. And this was after it was rebuilt, though. Once it was rebuilt, that was another. Now wait. So let's start with just first. They wanted to maybe get rid of the MGM from the picture because it was making them look bad and putting the spotlight on the mob run joints. That's thing number one. Number two, Culinary Union. Culinary Union, when they were rebuilding, went on strike. Okay, so that set them back. There was a few other things that he spoke about in the book.
What about the trade unions? The electricians union.
He even went into the Hanley, the Granby and Tom Hanley, which there were two Tom Hanleys in town. I didn't know that until last night.
Well, then you had Ed Hanley too. Ed Hanley was in charge of the Culinary Union.
Well, Tom and Granby Hanley, they were the ones that were setting all the fires to the non-union restaurants. Alpine Village, what was the other one that they put into Frankie's Place or something was the name of it? And then they killed Al Bramlett, who was hiring them to do that. He was the president of the Culinary Union. They picked him up at the airport and said, "Pay us." He said, "The bombs didn't go off. You set the bombs, but they didn't go off. I'm not paying you for bombs that didn't go off." So he was found in the desert with his hands sticking up out of the ground. By the way, his wife, that guy, she bit his you-know-what off. And he ended up that's a whole nother story, but we aren't going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. His nickname was Stubby.
You know, when I was a kid, I thought that
Elaine Bobbitt.
I thought I thought that Bobbitt thing was like, oh my God, you know, nobody's ever done this before. No, this has been going on for a long time, man.
She went back and got a knife. Oh. She went back and got a knife from the kitchen.
Horrible. Oh, all right. So, anyways, let's not get into too much shocking information. YouTube's gonna say, you guys are talking about shocking information. Look it up though, if you guys. It's an interesting story. So the fire.
Sherry Lou says it wasn't Mrs. O'Leary's cow; it was Bernie.
It was Bernie. What else here? Lorena Bobbitt's hubby became a porn star after the soda pack. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I never saw it. Did you?
Yes, he made a fortune. I sold a lot of those. I'll tell you why. Everybody wanted to know if it really worked. Nobody had ever even heard of something being sewn on like that. And they found it in the field, a vacant lot.
I don't know what that said. I thought she threw it out of a window or something.
She did in a vacant. She was leaving the house. She took it with, and she threw it in a vacant lot. When she told them, they went back and put it up, picked it up, put it nice, and sewed it back on.
So this little girl and her grandpa, they're driving down the road, the highway. They're going out for vacation, you know, and in car in front of them, this woman, she's on her honeymoon with her husband. And he says, honey, I got something I got to confess to you. And she said, what's that, dear? He said, well, I slept with your sister before we got married. She reached into the glove box and pulled out a razor. She pulled out a stick. She sliced it right off, threw it out the window. Flop! It hit the windshield of the little girl and the grandpa behind them. And the little girl said, what was that, Grandpa? And he said, wow, it was a caterpillar. She said, well, that caterpillar had a big dick. All right. So anyway. All right. Back to the fire. Come on. My train of thought gets all screwed up when you take me off track, Red. So
I didn't take you off track. God, you explained to me already. I quit. That's it.
All right, so back to the fire. The molded plastic. The Clark County ladder trucks, the fire engines, they only reached 11 stories. Or was it 9 stories?
9.
It was 27 floors tall. So everybody from floors 10 and up, they were screwed. So you're right. They were tying bed sheets together. They were trying to lower themselves. For some reason, Red remembers people jumping
off the bed sheets. They would climb down the bed sheets. When they ran out of sheet, they'd let go.
It's a good idea. I mean, if you're physically able to get on the bed sheet and climb down, you know, why not? Save your ass. There were firemen that were staying there. They helped.
There was one that I notably remember. And that was a family. That was children and the wife. And they started out. He said, honey, you get on, start down the sheet. I'm going to get my passport. He went and got his passport and came back, and the sheet came loose off of the bars from the, it was gone. He looked down. Yeah. They were all dead.
So, legacy mindset. This story reminds me when Arlington Park burned down. We did a show about Arlington Park and talked about all of this. Scott H. Who's this guy? I got here late. Welcome in, Scott. Good to see you. And Rick Charlton's in the house. Good. So nice to see you. Benjamin, Rick, did they leave a light on for you? And Rick said, no. I haven't read the book, but I just stayed at the Motel 6. At a motel. Oh, I'll left the light on for you. Never mind. All right, so hit the like button, guys. Hit the subscribe. If you're new here, we do lives on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. and Chicago Pacific time, 4 p.m. Chicago time, Central Standard Time. I thought it was Chicago Standard Time when I was a kid. Believe that? Like CST, man, that's Chicago Standard Time. Yep. And old style was our flag.
Hams, the beer refreshing.
So, all right. So this fire's going on at the MGM. Let's get back to this Bernie's theory, because I want to put some more pieces of this together for the people interested in hearing about it. Yeah, the ladder trucks weren't going up all the way. The polyvinyl chloride, the PVC, was burning, turning into a chemical like mustard gas. It was being pumped up into the hotel rooms. People were hanging bed sheets, trying to climb out of the windows. According to some eyewitnesses, one person jumped to their death. Other witnesses say more than one, but I even had a neighbor out here in Vegas who lived down the street from it and was there. She saw it with her own eyes, and she recalls seeing people jumping. I know. I in multiple, she said. So
I remember that too.
Maybe they jumped and didn't unlive themselves. They got to use that word now,
Away. Maybe they just walked away. They jumped and walked away, and they weren't a
kid. Did you see that hot air balloon go down in Brazil?
No.
A couple days ago? Holy shit! You didn't see that?
When they go down, they go down.
No. I'm going to show this to you guys. You aren't going to believe this. People walked away from this. My buddy Roy told me about this the other day, and I said, you got to be kidding me. Hot air balloon.
Anthony says one lady did jump. She didn't survive. Anthony, I believe you were out there when this happened, weren't you? You were in Las
Vegas. See, I read one person died from a head trauma due to falling. So jumping, falling, okay, ready? Here, let's present this. And oh wow, it lets you present more than one thing now, Red.
That's good.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, so share screen, and let's share this so you can see it.
Anthony worked there just after it happened, so he wasn't actually there when it happened.
So this happened in Brazil. Can you see this? This hot air balloon's got 22 people, and the sucker started on fire.
In the air.
In the air, of course. Yeah. Look, here's person went down, and then another person jumped, I guess. And then where do you see this hot air balloon go down? This is crazy. Another person. This is nuts, man. This just happened a few days ago. But you believe like 13 people walked away from this thing alive. This thing goes down. 13 people walk away from that. You believe that?
Yeah.
Well, what the fuck? You've been in 3 plane crashes and walked away from all 3 of those, man. Why wouldn't you believe it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't believe. I want to address something. When you get to the point, because I'm not going to say a word when you get there, but when you get to the point of Bouchy Seagull being killed and Virginia's brother, and you talk about him being a sharpshooter in the Marine Corps, let me tell you something. A sharpshooter was only middle grade. There was marksman, sharpshooter, and expert.
Right.
So he was in between.
Oh, we're talking about Virginia Hill's brother. You wanted to go to that subject?
No, I'm just bringing it up before so when you get there. He was an average shooter in the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay. So, all right, but back to the MGM, the fire, and it had to have been horrific to see that. I mean, Bernie writes in his book about it, that it brings chills just thinking about it. Trying to just sit there and recall it and tell the story was enough to, And I imagine, it's like when you live through something, and whether it's October 1, 2017 in Vegas, or it's 9/11 in New York, or shit like that, when you think about it, it makes you relive those. You feel those feelings you felt, and they aren't good feelings.
If it's burning flesh or something like that, it would probably be in your mind.
Of course. So Bernie said in his book that he thinks that maybe they put acid on top. And I've read, look, Jeff Burbank wrote in his book, Babylon, Las Vegas, Babylon. He wrote that it was the cake display case inside the deli, the Orleans deli, in the MGM. There was a cake display case that was refrigerated, and in the bottom there was a compressor, and the compressor wasn't bolted down right, and so the compressor was vibrating, and the copper tubing coming off with the refrigeration was vibrating against electrical conduit, and it rubbed it away, and then it rubbed the insulation off the wires. They arced, and that's what the official cause, according to the Clark County fire investigators, is what started that fire. That's what he wrote in his book.
He also, I believe he mentioned it wasn't conduit, it was PBX. It was.
Hold on. Wait. Jeff, we're talking about Jeff Burbank's book.
Yes.
Las Vegas, Babylon. Different book. Bernard Sindler's book, he said a sous chef told him he saw up in the ceiling smoke, right? And he went to get a hose, and somebody yelled, "Don't, it's an electrical fire. You'll get electrocuted if you shoot water on it." And when he went back to get the other extinguisher, by the time he got back, it was too late. And Bernie says, how would that guy have known, be able to see through the ceiling and know it was an electrical fire? Right? It's exactly what he wrote in his book, which contradicts what Jeff Burbank wrote in Las Vegas, Babylon. So where did the fire start? You know, what's I guess, does it say in Wikipedia? I'd be interested in knowing. Let's just take a look. An employee of the hotel's bakery recounted at just after 7 a.m. he saw smoke coming from the ceiling vents just before the lights went out. MGM security was advised of the situation. Alerted.
If the lights went out, it blew the breaker.
An electrical fire, right? If the wires are arcing, the breaker's going to go.
Yes.
It's not going to sit there and just keep arcing, and you know.
Well, if you listen to Bernie, it did.
See, this is why I told you Red laughed while I was reading this book. It's all a hypothesis, this book. It's just here's what could have happened, you know, and then it's pulling things out of the ether and, you know, just here you go. What if? It's almost like watching an episode of Ghost Adventures with Zach Bagan. Well, she could have been killed here, and then the body was drug out, and then and you're like, well, where did you come up with that from? That's just shit, you know. That's just made up crap. You don't watch Ghost Adventures, do you?
No.
That's all right. It's as bad as Prison Break.
I don't like made up crap. I like the real thing.
The real stuff, man. Let's hear the real stuff. Nellis Air Force Base. They were picking people off the roof of the MGM Grand. I heard they used the local news choppers even that were taking people off the roof, and that Nellis had red flag going on, which is it's a war game. They play it every couple of years, and it happened to be going on that week, and so they were able to come over and help out. There was extra, but it says it pulled 1,000 people from the roof of the MGM Grand. So why would the mob start this fire? Just because the spotlight's on their casinos, because they aren't paying their fair share of the gaming revenue because they're skimming so much? Or, right, if they did want to get rid of it for that reason, what would be the best time of the day and week to do this? Say, we're going to start a fire in the MGM Grand, and we just want to get rid of the MGM Grand. We want to put it out of commission. So let's start the fire And we don't want the spotlight to be, I mean, you watched it on the news and you were in Chicago, so it was a national spotlight. This made headlines. But if this would have happened at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, when all the showrooms, all the restaurants, the casino, everything was filled up with people,
they might have caught it quicker.
They might have caught it quicker, or thousands would have died because they wouldn't have been able to stop it. They said that fire spread 150 yards, right? 19 feet per second across the casino floor. Like, people were literally in the running position. Their body, you know, when they were found.
They got flashed.
Yeah. I don't want to say flash fried, but because that's kind of a shocking image. But I mean, it was a backdraft that occurred. So, I mean, it's terrific. But they got out. The people that got out were lucky. If it would have been thousands of people that died, that could have been bad for Las Vegas, for the whole citywide. All the casinos would have taken a hurt. Who wants to go to Vegas? Thousands of people got into stuck in a hotel fire. So the perfect time to do it, Red, 7:30 in the morning on Friday, before all the weekenders get to Las Vegas. All the people from Thursday have unloaded and left town. It's the slowest time of the week in Las Vegas. Is Friday morning. It's the slowest day. Everybody knows it. Some shows don't have shows on Friday because that's their dark night, because that's when people are coming to town figuring out, what are we going to do for the weekend? So it would be, to minimize casualties, that would be the optimal time of the week and the day to do that. That's another point that he made. And again, it's just a theory. It's like, okay, let's put this little piece together and this little piece together. And then after they reopened, when the MGM reopened, Corean sold it. And again, Bernie surmises he sold it because he just couldn't stand to keep running a place where he knew, you know, this horrific thing happened. So he sold it to Bally's. Bally's. Wait a second. Bally's.
Why didn't you just tear it down then and get rid of it?
All right. So Bally's. Red laughs at a lot of this shit. Bally's.
The guy had such a big heart. I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to give it to somebody else.
All right, what did Bally's? Let's back to the history of Bally's. Bally's made slot machines. Then Bally's also made pinball machines.
Not only that, they bought up all the pinball machine companies. They distributed them. Williams, all of them.
Where were they based?
In Chicago on Sangamon Avenue.
And who was in their pockets?
Well, Joey Lombardo was when I knew him. So, I mean, the match.
Okay, but let's roll back. I mean, during your time, yes. But before that, let's go back to the early, beginning of Bally's. Who was in their pocket?
Al Capone.
There you go. Right? So, you got the Chicago mob basically muscling Bally's, right? Bally's is going to do what they're told. So, Corean sells to Bally's. Bally's, who owns also a property in Atlantic City or Reno. Okay, so they have Bally's in Reno. They then put a bunch of knuckleheads in charge of all of the running the properties. You know, they got this. The MGM Grand. The Grand was highly successful. All the high rollers went there. It was the property in Vegas. So they already had a successful past. The fire happens. Then it's bought by Bally's, and Bally's goes in and puts a bunch of knuckleheads in charge and bankrupts the place. Why? They also are the ones who are responsible for putting in the take your Players Club card to the kid at the desk and see how many points you have, and then we'll see if you can get a free buffet. Okay? So the reward system for the gamblers, the levels, okay? This person's a whale. This person's a shark. This is Put that together, he's a diamond status, an emerald status, whatever it was. They then took all the comps from the high rollers. They didn't take care of them. They said, oh, they're the high rollers? Don't take care of them. So what did they do? The high rollers left, and they went to other properties to go gamble, mob run joints where they could skim the money.
Rick Carlson said, wasn't that where Elvis played?
No, Elvis played at the International, which then became the Hilton. But
Yes.
there was also a fire at the Hilton in 1981, a year after the MGM. And that was, man, making my brain work. That was Philip Klein. He was the arsonist. He was a kid. He was 20-some years old. He was a busboy.
Smoking the marijuana on the bench. Yeah, I remember.
He said he met a guy named Joe. They were going to smoke a marijuana cigarette and have a little intimacy on the hotel elevator lobby. And they accidentally dropped the joint, and it started the whole place on fire. Right? So, and eight people died in that fire. It jumped from the 8th floor up to the 13th floor. And Philip Klein told the fire investigators the night of the fire, and he wrote it in his written statement, that he went down the hallway, he grabbed the bucket, he put it under the thing, filled it with fire, and threw it on the curtains. And then he scratched out the word fire and he wrote water. Okay? And they went, what the fuck? So they brought him down to the station, put him on a polygraph. The guy failed miserably. And he was tried. One of the jurors, when they requested to the judge if they could go to the scene of the crime and go see the hotel elevator lobby, one of the jurors went in a room and grabbed the garbage can, the bucket that he filled with water, right? Put it in the sink and tried to put water in it. And because the sink was only this deep and the bucket was this deep, they couldn't get it under the sink nozzle to turn they could only get like an inch of water into the bucket. That was it. Because of Red, you there? You look like you're frozen. You're frozen. Anyway, they couldn't get the bucket in, and he was found guilty of it and sentenced to 8 life sentences. He's up at Indian Springs here in Nevada. So Red's frozen, and we're gonna go on until Red comes back. So So that International, by the way, became the Hilton. It became the Hilton. Kirk Corean sold it, and Hilton bought it, and that's what happened. So, Ditton Bally's make slot machines too. Yes, Scott H. They did make slot machines, and you're right. Why not fill the bucket in the tub? Right. That's what. But he said he put it in the sink and filled it. So he was pretty specific in his lie. So they couldn't find the guy named Joe. And later on, he admitted, once he was caught, that he admitted when he was caught that he got a marijuana cigarette from his friend, and it was laced with PCP. And his friend said, take it easy on it. This is some pretty heavy stuff. And he smoked the marijuana PCP cigarette and then took a lighter out, and he started the curtains on fire with the lighter. The police tried to reenact it. They tried to start the curtains on fire with a cigarette, and they couldn't. The material wasn't. So again, another one of his lies. And he started it. So let me just jump up. Since we're talking about the MGM Grand fire today, let me put this out there. There is a police officer. I cannot remember who his name is, a Metro cop, who hypothesized or surmised that Philip Klein was responsible for the Hilton fire, but he was also responsible for the MGM fire. Because guess who was working at the MGM when it started on fire? Philip Klein. There was a fire at the El Cortez downtown. Guess who was fired from the El Cortez 2 days before the fire? Philip Klein. there was a couple of fires in California, and couple of fires in California in hotels. And guess who was there when those fires started? Philip Klein. So did Philip Klein, was he a serial arsonist? Was he going around starting? I mean, could anyway, back to Bernie's book here. So let me sum this up. I don't know if Red's coming back or not, guys. He might have had a bad connection, but so to sum it up, Bernie's book says that it seems like Bally's intentionally let this place go to hell so that business would go back to the mob run joints. So the high rollers would spend their money there so that the mob could skim money. You almost got to think at a point, I guess skimming the money made them more money than running the joints legitimately. Because if they ran them legitimately, they're still making money. I mean, look, there's casinos out here, they aren't still out here because they aren't making money. So they're making money. Let's take a look here. Great Scott. Bally's had organized crime connections, I believe, via Jerry Catena. So they were connected back, I guess, to Rhode Island, and they also had some other connections in there. You know, so who knows? Could have been. Why would they want to get rid of it though? It just doesn't make crazy. It's crazy. So kind of crazy. Horrific event though. Totally horrific. So Red Wemette must have lost his connection completely here. Let's go to some comments from you guys. Take a look and see what we have going on here. Let's see. Rick Charlton. I occasionally talk to Royce Leonard, who, okay. This is Anthony DiMartini. Says I occasionally talk to Royce Leonard, who was one of the fire inspectors after the fire. I used his insight when I made my video about it. You know, Anthony, I don't think I saw that video. Jackie Gone, who has a lot of class, shut Barberry Coast on and took in victims and firefighters and fed them and housed them. Yeah, I heard a lot of the casinos around town did that. In the employees' dining rooms, the EDRs, they opened them up for people to come in to eat and made room. They actually moved table games out of the way to make space for the people. And the convention center also, right, took them in. So that's what they said about the Beverly Hills Country Club fire. I'm not aware of the Beverly Hills Country Club fire, Anthony. I'm not. So, Mr. Hoffman, I have a Bally's Black Rose pinball machine. You guys, you know, there's a place in town that is called the Pinball Hall of Fame. It's on the Strip. It's just across from the Welcome to Las Vegas sign down by Mandalay Bay. And the Pinball Hall of Fame has all of these pinball machines and old arcade games. Not all of them are working. Last time I went, which was it was a year ago, it was last August. I went, burn a little time before going to the Golden Steer. We're going for steak and lobster. My buddy was in town. And so we killed some time at the Pinball Hall of Fame. I said, let's go check it out. You know, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, half the shit didn't work in there. You couldn't play it. And I get it. There's one guy, it's a 501c3 that runs that place. And there's one guy who goes around, he fixes and maintains all of the stuff. And I guess it's hard to hire somebody to fix pinball machines nowadays because there's only like one place in the world where you'd have a job, and that's at the Pinball Hall of Fame. Because where the hell else are you going to go and fix pinball machines? So, yeah, so he doesn't have anybody to help him fix these pinball machines. So it's just him, and they're breaking faster than he can keep up with them, which is too well. Oh, Scott H, I took you to the Pinball Hall of Fame. Yes, I did, sir. That is correct. I took it to when it was used to be right across from Liberace's restaurant, Tivoli Gardens, and the strip mall and his museum. That's all changed around now. But it was right across the street from there. It was a small little location, the Pinball Hall of Fame. But now they have this, geez, I don't know. It's got to be freaking 70,000 square feet. I mean, it's huge. Their new location on the strip. But unfortunately, like I said, not all the machines work all the time. It's fun, though. Go check it out if you want to go walk around and see some vintage stuff from when you were a kid, you know. Bally's used to house organized crime arsenal in their warehouse in Chicago. Tim Peroni. Yeah, they were connected. They were run. The outfit had the muscle on them. So why it makes sense. I mean, Bernard Sindler's theory here makes, to me anyway, it makes some sense to me. And it's, I don't know, it's not a stretch of the imagination. I want to say, oh, well, these mobsters didn't want to hurt people. They didn't want to kill people. They didn't want to, you know, they wouldn't do that and endanger people's lives. Bernie said that where that fire started, he went up there and looked, and it looked like somebody smashed through the ceiling above this electrical box. Could have easily put a little acid to eat through the insulation of the wires and cause the arcing to start. That it could have been planned out. Then again, you know, you go to other books and other resources, and it's just, let's just see what the Wikipedia page says about the cause. Here it says, the cause was confined to the casino and restaurant areas. The hotel was not equipped with a fire sprinkler system. The area with the most fire prevention was in the money counting area, protect the money, not in the individual rooms or casino floor. The fire chief been concerned that such a fire could occur, as older hotels built prior to 79 were not required certain fire safety features. At the time, the governor, Robert List, said you can't force people to bring hotels up to codes that didn't exist when they were built. For years after its openings, the resort had declined orders to install a second fire hose in one of its showrooms. As of June 1980, only 20% of fire safety violations discovered 2 months earlier were corrected. Red's back with us. What's up, Red?
Believe it or not, we had a tornado come down and got a bunch of telephone poles, so we're out.
Holy cow! Are you all right, man?
Yeah, it's away from my house, but there's sirens going by me all the time here.
Holy moly! Red just had some tornadoes ripped through there.
It flickered for a while, and suddenly the Wi-Fi went out. Then
Oh.
So.
All right, so we're at the cause of the fire right now. The Wikipedia. Here's what Wikipedia says: the fire was caused by an electrical ground fault, a GFI, inside a wall-mounted electrical receptacle. A refrigerated pastry display case was added after the original construction of the hotel to one of its restaurants, known as the Deli. Unlike a modern display case, which would be totally self-contained, a compressor installed in the bottom of the case, this unit functioned like a walk-in cooler or a central air conditioning system with a pair of copper refrigerant lines connected to its evaporator to a condensing unit located outside the building. When the setup was installed, the copper line set was run through the same wall soffit as a pre-existing electrical conduit and in physical contact with the conduit.
Which is totally illegal.
It's not. That's definitely not code.
No.
The fan-forced evaporator unit in the display case was not properly secured and thus was able to vibrate consistently while in operation. These vibrations were carried along the copper refrigeration lines, causing the pipes to rub against electrical conduit in the wall soffit and make them vibrate as well. Galvanic corrosion occurred, in which the copper refrigeration pipes were in physical contact with the aluminum electrical conduit, causing the conduit to erode over time. Galvanic corrosion and vibration, as well as jagged edges and stretched wires. What fucking means stretched wires? You can't stretch wires.
Yes, you can.
What are you talking about?
Wires do stretch.
They're copper, Red. What are you going to heat them up and
They
pull them?
stretch to them. They hit copper and skid to it. It will stretch. So will aluminum.
You know how copper wire was invented?
No, but you know what strand copper wire does? It stretches.
I'm not going to say it because people are going to, you're wrong. It's not right to say that joke. All right.
Go
So,
ahead.
no, I'm not going to tell him. I'm not telling it, man. I'm not telling it. So.
Well, I'm not.
All right. So let me finish here. As well as jagged edges and stretched wires resulted from poor workmanship during the installation. Eventually resulted in the electrical wires inside the conduit missing chunks of their plastic insulation. The conduit was rendered ungrounded. There was no separate ground wire. The metal conduit itself was designed to function as the ground. So the disintegration of the conduit rendered the system ungrounded.
Yeah.
These now bare electrical conductors inside of the ungrounded metal conduit glowed red hot and began arcing, which ignited the fire. The fire reportedly smoldered for hours until it found fresh oxygen and burst into a fireball that spread into the casino and was fed by other combustibles. And that's what I heard that for years, I've known this story, and I've heard it that the cleaning crews opened the doors in the morning to go in. And then when they opened the doors, that's what introduced oxygen to the situation and caused the backdraft. Yeah, that's what I originally heard. Now
That makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. So, Art Kelly, when you two coming out boating summertime on my boat, Goodfellas? Yeah, well, we're looking forward to coming out there, man.
Yeah,
Art's got a boat at.
I know,
right?
Yeah,
I can't wait to go to. That's what I dream of, going to LA every day. I want to go to LA. All right, Scratch Delight just returned from Vegas. I seen zero advertisement for your tour. Nothing. Scratch Delight, you're seeing the advertisement right now. I wish you would have come on the tour. It would have been a lot of fun. We were sold out a lot last week, so it's that time of year. We get busier than hell, and it's hotter than hell. And I got to try and keep these people cool in the van. But anyway, if you guys come to Vegas, do the Vegas mob tour, do the Vegas crime tour. Hear about John Wayne Gacy's connection to Vegas, O.J. Simpson. We pass around memorabilia it was actual memorabilia that it's got state evidence stickers on it. It was in the room with O.J. Simpson the night he stole all of the stuff from the Palace Station from the memorabilia collectors. We talk about the Steve Wynn kidnapping, when Kevin was kidnapped, the Luxor car bombing, Mandalay Bay shooting, Tupac Shakur, Keefe D. I just read about Keefe D. Quick update, guys. So Orlando Anderson's uncle, Dwayne Keith Davis, he is going to be facing the trial. It is set. They are having it. It's going to be next year. The prosecution finally got their case together. I think he was arrested September 28th of 2023. He's been sitting in Clark County Detention Center this whole time. I hear that's a shit place to be. And I heard he also got in trouble for trying to harassing another prisoner. He got on the phone, the prison phone, and said, "Yeah, I body checked that guy. I'm gonna put lumps on him every time I see him." And this is, you're like, you dumbass. Do you think they don't listen? Do you think they listen to these phone calls? You stupid son of a! I can't wait to hear what they found in his house, because they went in with a search warrant, and a local judge gave him a search warrant after he's blapping his mouth.
For anything electronic.
They went in his house, whatever they found, they presented to a local grand jury, and they said that's enough to indict him, so they arrested him. If this dumbass still had the gun, if he still had the gun.
his lawyer is not for writ of habeas corpus, so I do believe they have a good case.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Anyway, enough about gangsters. Let's get back to the mobsters. If you're in LA, bring a helmet with a gas mask. No shit, Scott H. Devin Morrell, best tour in Vegas. Thank you very much, Devin. Appreciate it. I had Devin and his wife were on the tour. They're fantastic. I accidentally walked in on what I thought was a mob sit-down disciplinary session at a pinball place in Berwyn. A month later, it was the target of a pipe bombing. Mr. Hoffman.
Yes, that was, forget the guy who did that.
Yeah. Scott H., are you still doing the Good Springs tour at night? Yes, and we do the Fallout Good Springs tour during the day. So we have two that are running out there now. If I go to LA, I bring my pew-pew. Better be careful, Benjamin. Be careful, because who's that guy that was claiming? Come on, Vim.
Yeah.
What the hell was his name? Vim, Vern.
Yeah, I remember it. I can't.
They drove red nuts for Vim Miller.
Yes.
Right, Vim Miller. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Las Vegas, and he brought his gun out
He
there.
took his gun out there. He said, "Yeah, he said,
I got a gun in the car."
unbelievable." He went to, yeah. All right. So anyway, is Red going to be able to go live? I don't know. I don't think so. Red, your internet knocked out?
Everything's knocked out.
Yeah.
All my power. See on the street here, I'm watching police officers with their lights on, and also ambulances. So it must have been something major. The wind is blowing kind of heavy. It just slowed down a little bit, but it is raining.
Right. Rick Charlton, the church on the tour is what creeped the stuffing out of me. So I don't go past the church anymore. I cut that off of the tour. It's like an extra. I'm trying to shave the tour down a little bit and condense it. I'm writing a book. The book's going to be finished by the end of the year. That's my goal. At the end of the year, my book's done. And what it is the book's about how I got involved. It's about me. Yeah, it's about me. It's about how I got started. How the hell did this happen? You know, I just wanted to be a magician and do magic and go to Vegas. And then I fell into this web of weird, like, what the fuck's going on? And I can't tell that story in 2 hours. I can't sit and tell that story during the tour. And people want to know it. They ask me all the time, how'd you meet Frank Collada? How did how did this happen? How did that? So that's what the book's going to be. And it's going to, there's so many weird coincidences in me moving here. I mean, just bizarre stuff that I can't explain. And so I'm putting it all into the book. Yeah. I rented a guest house a couple of years after I moved here. I rented a guest house and I was living in the guest house. Well, that was after I moved out of the Mormons. Yeah. When I was living with the Mormons. Yeah. That was an experience. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. That was different. Gabe and Wendy were awesome. Still are. They got a big family now. God bless them. They're great people. But yeah, when I moved out of there, they were starting a family. There was just the two of them. They wanted to, they were, hey, we're gonna have kids. And I was like, all right, well, time to go. And nice knowing you, and nice hanging out. It was fun. But I stayed with Kim and her husband. She got married to him, Kevin George. Nice guy. We're friends still. I talk about Kevin on the tour every day. I talk about Kevin because so Kevin lived in the house and I lived in the guest house, and Kim, they were dating at the time. They actually got married while I was living there. I went to their wedding, and Kevin was working as a nurse and he was going back and forth to UMC. And I remember I asked him one day, I said, dude, Kevin, you drive down Palomino Lane here. Why do all these cars sit over here by the elementary school? They all like line up next to it. Like, what's the, he goes, oh, they're trying to get a glimpse of Michael. I said, Michael who? He said, Michael Jackson. I said, what? I'm living down the street from Michael Jackson? He said, it's the Thriller Villa. You know, when Michael's not at the Neverland Ranch, he's here in Vegas at the Thriller Villa, which happens to be right across the street from the elementary school. I show it on the tour. We go on the crime tour. I just point it out. I don't insinuate anything, but it is. It's right across the street from the elementary school. So the Thriller Villa. Anyway, Kevin.
You're going to live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you get away from everybody. I don't know. But years later, when I was visiting Frank Collada in the hospital, this was in 2017. He was getting his heart zapped, or it was an AFib, and he was getting it put back. Anyway, I was sitting in the hospital room with him, and he was sitting in the hospital room, and the nurses changed staff. And the nurse walked in, and I looked up at him, and I said, Kevin, what's up, dude? Kevin was Frank Collada's nurse. So after, I don't know, an hour or so, I walked out in the hallway, and I said to Kevin, it's like, hey, Kevin, come here. That's not Joseph Curtis. That's Frank Collada. I told him. I walked back in the room, and Frank's sitting there in the bed, and he said, did you just go tell that guy who I am? No, man. Right? Oh, Kevin's a good guy. He's not going to do anything, but but it was kind of a weird, one of those circles. The other kind of strange, crazy thing, when I was living with Kim and Kevin, Kim would have me walk the house a couple times a day when they weren't in town, and they go away on the weekends and the summertime, get out of town when it was hot. And, I'd walk the house, and one day I would walk the house, just make sure no pipes broke, nothing's wrong. And I looked at the calendar on the wall, and it said dinner with the Pignatellas. So when she got back to town, I said, hey, Kim, I happen to notice you're going to have dinner with the Pignatellas. I said, would that happen to be the same Pignatellas that owned Piero's restaurant, Villa d'Este? House of the East. It was run by Joe Pignatella. Joe Pig, they called him. He was a driver for Sam Giancana back in Chicago. Sam put the money up for the place. One night, Frank Sinatra, he got on stage at the Sands, and he belched mid-song. And he said, I'm sorry, folks. I apologize. I have a little argina. I just had dinner. My friend Joe cooked for me down at Villa d'Este, and it was fantastic. And the phones at Villa d'Este blew up. And they were booked for months solid because of that one plug from Frank Sinatra on stage. So I said, is that the same Pignatella? And she said, yeah, we're going to have dinner. And then, really? I was like, that he was connected to the Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, and Tony Spilatro's son used to work for our carpet company. What? Her and her husband had a carpeting company, and they carpeted these hotels, made a lot of money carpeting hotels, because a lot of hotel rooms to carpet, and they keep changing the carpeting like every year. So change the carpeting, so you're never out of work. It's not like, right? And the hotels have endless. Anyway, they did quite well for themselves. And she said, though, that her kids were in the same class as Vincent Spilatro. And she said she sat on the PTA with that. She said Tony Spilatro was the nicest guy in the world. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please. Thank you. Hold the door for you. Very chivalrous. Vincent would have his birthday. Tony come to school with a tray of cupcakes for all the kids. Then go stick somebody's head in a vice. Nice guy. It's anyway. She said that her kids would come home from school and say, "We got to be nice to Vincent. He's getting bullied. Everybody keeps saying that his dad's some kind of gangster, mobster." Right? So Vincent worked. They gave him a job at the carpeting company, installing carpeting for him. She said Vincent was the nicest guy in the world. It's crazy, these weird coincidences that I experienced, and it's like the casino house, the house they used in the movie Casino. There's so many weird shit there too. The owners of the casino house that live there now, they used to be neighbors to Lefty and Jerry McGee before they bought that house. Their kids were in the same Hebrew school together. So the owner of the house in the movie Casino used to carpool with the real Jerry McGee. She said the woman was always coked up and drinking. And their son was in the same, or their daughter was best friends with Stephanie Rosenthal. And she used to spend the night over there all the time at her house. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And I don't know why I have this information, but I got to put it in a book. I got to put it down because people want to know how the hell did this happen? And it's kind of,
I'm amazed every time you talk.
It's pretty nutty, man. It's kind of nutty how it's all just full circle. Hit the like button, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you're here. Just coming in. We're talking about, well, I guess we started talking about me. Devin Morrell. Adam, I told Mike Hammer I took your tour. He laughed and said he was sorry. That's Mike. If you guys come to town, go to the Four Queens downtown on Fremont Street and do yourself a favor, go see Mike Hammer. If you guys like Don Rickles and you don't, if you're a politically correct person and then don't go to this show, okay? Because you'll want to leave. If you want to have a good fucking time and laugh your ass off, however, go to his show, all right? Because he's fantastic. He really is. I don't say that just because we've been buddies since before Vegas. Back in Chicago, we knew each other. But no, he's fantastic. Peter Faulkner, poor Michael Jackson only wanted to be a child. Did you know this, guys? Did you know that Michael Jackson's doctor was like, after Michael died, it was few years after Michael died, that and I think it was after Joe died, after his father died too, the doctor said that Joe had Michael chemically castrated so that his voice wouldn't drop, so he'd keep that high voice.
I thought that was terrible.
When he was a kid. Yeah, that's what the doctor said. You go,
Michael actually said that in an interview.
Did Michael admit to that?
Oh, yeah, he said he hated his father. His father used to beat him. And he said he beat him when he lived in Indiana to go on stage. And he said, that's the last time you ever beat me again. I'll never go on stage.
Oh, yeah, no, that's just
He had a very rough childhood. He liked his father a lot.
You know, I mean, how did he have kids?
He didn't. He adopted.
Oh, those kids are adopted? I thought they were his kids. Like
No, they had a surrogate mother. They had a surrogate mother. He fertilized the eggs that were in a mother.
Oh. Sherry.
There was a real problem with that when he died because she wanted custody.
Shari Ives. I spoke with Michael Jackson on the phone a few times for work, and his voice was very sweet and gentle. Not like a deep man's voice at all. No, when you hear him in interviews, he's very soft-spoken and he sounds like he sounds like a kid.
If anybody talks just like you talk, they say he's got a voice just like Michael Jackson.
Ryan Brown. Hi, how you doing? Good to have you in here. Devin Morrell, didn't the owner of the casino house prosecute Frank? Okay, the owner of the casino house. The owners are Richard.
Very nice people.
They're super nice. They're in the movie Casino. If you sneeze, you miss them, but they're in the movie Casino. When the police car pulls up and the nosy neighbors run across the street because Sharon Stone just did the ramming and jamming in the back of Lefty's Cadillac, the nosy neighbors are the owners of the casino house. They're the two standing next to the police car. So he was deputy DA. and he prosecuted, or at least he worked on the cases that helped prosecute some of these guys. Frank Collada specifically, Devin, no, but he did work on prosecuting criminals. So I mean, it's kind of, you know, Frank Collada broke into that house. He burglarized it.
No,
You didn't know that? Oh shit! So we're sitting there one day. Frank and I are sitting there doing a tour, private tour, and Frank leaned over to me. He goes, "I told you I hit this place, right?" And I looked at him. I said, "You're shitting me." He said, "No." I said, "Right after I moved here." Says Leo and I, we were doing the burglaries, and we went into this house. I said to him, "Are you serious?" So I'll be honest with you guys. I thought Frank was bullshitting me. I really did. I was like, this guy's starting to bullshit me, you know. There's no. But after Frank passed away, about a year after he passed away, I was outside the house doing a tour, and Richard's standing there. We're talking to the guests, and I said, "Hey, Dick, I got a question for you." He said, "Yeah." And I said, between 78 and 81, was your house ever burglarized?
Yep.
And Richard said to me, "We were hit 4 times." And I thought, son of a bitch, Frank wasn't bullshitting me. That's true. He burglarized that house. So about 3 months later, I'm doing another tour, and I'm out there, and Richard came out to say hello, to talk to the people, and I said to the people, I'm going over all these coincidences, and I said to the people, yeah, and you know, at some point in time when Frank Collada was here, there's the biggest coincidence out of all of it. When Frank was here, he burglarized this house. And Richard looked at me and said, "What?" Because keep in mind, Frank used to, you know, when we did private tours, go to that house and he'd stand outside, and Richard and Sharon had come out and they'd talk, and they, you know, so he's shot the shit with them many times. And I said, "Yeah," I said, "Frank burglarized this house." And Dick looked at me and said, "What'd you say?" I said, "Frank burglarized your house." He said, "You never told me that." I said, "Yeah, I just asked you a couple of months ago if your house was ever burglarized, because Frank told me he burglarized your house. And you said," and he goes, "We were hit 4 times. I said, "Yeah, and one of them was Frank."
maybe all of them are Frank.
Maybe, you know, maybe, right? Who knows?
It was a good score.
Good score. Let's go back. You know, you never know. So yeah, it's just some of the coincidences and the things and the information. It's not written down anywhere, so that's why I'm writing a book. Anyway, Red, it's been a hell of an afternoon. We've gone way over time here, but we're not doing an after party because his internet got knocked out by a tornado. But thank God, Red's okay. And guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, yeah.
Electricity.
I might just say, Devin Morrell, the Red Fox house story is the funniest. Frank leaving a 20 in Red's safe. Devin, I want you to listen to me very closely. When I preface that story on the tour, I use these exact words. This, of everything you're going to hear this afternoon, is the most amusing story. I say that for a reason. Take that in. All right. But it is funny, which is why it's on the tour, because you need a laugh every once in a while. But it's for amusement only. Tim Baroni, I wonder if everything Michael Jackson was accused of was true. You know, I say this on the tour. I'm going to say it one more time. On the crime tour, if you take the crime tour. Anthony Pellicano, Tony Pellicano, the Hollywood fixer. Everybody goes to this guy for any problem that they have, and he makes those problems disappear. That's what Tony Pellicano did. I don't know. Does he still do that, Red?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he back in business? So he said in an interview once, the only client he ever dropped, because when he got into it and started digging into the case based on morals and values, he dropped Michael Jackson as a client. Only client he ever dropped.
If everything you told me is true, it's true, I have no crimes or criminals. He said, but if you lied to me about anything, he said, yeah, we're through. Well, once he announced that he was withdrawn from it as a client, he said, why? And they said, what did you find out? He said, what I found out is worse than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Those were his words.
Yep. Those are his words. Ryan Brown. Have you seen the video of Larry Newman being interviewed? Yes, I have. He does not sound threatening. No, he doesn't. He called what he called Frank a pig in a poke. They got a pig in a poke.
Yep.
They bought a pig in a poke, right? So
it's a very Chicago saying.
I've never heard that saying until I heard him say that in the interview. In that, well, I think it was John Drummond. Bulldog was interviewing him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And the Bulldog has a GoFundMe, guys. They're making a documentary about him, and they're trying to raise 100,000.
Yes.
100,000.
Money together so they can buy footage.
Yeah. They want to license everything from CBS, and I guess it's aired footage is costing them crazy amount, but unaired is even more, and that's what they're trying to license. Yeah. So
that's a lot.
Rick Charlton. I don't know how Joe's doing. I'll be honest with you, Rick. I haven't spoke to him in a while. Ryan Brown. Liberace only had rhinestones. Yeah, that's what Frank said at one point. So
he was gonna swear probably.
Yeah, exactly. A tribe called cookiesfor.com. That's a long name. A tribe called cookiesfor.com. A friend of ours, Robert Sacravino out of New York, was in the scene with Sharon Stone, sat next to her, the Goomba and the glasses. Hey, that guy ran a clothing store in town. And he's the one that Sharon Stone's gambling with, and she takes his chips and throws them up in the air. He's wearing those glasses. Yeah. Okay. So
she said he cheated about some chips.
Yeah, right. So my mentor, Robert Allen, he was supposed to have that part in the movie. They cast him for that part. And De Niro and Pesci, I guess, were out in town in Vegas, and they went to a clothing store, and this guy ran that clothing store and gave them all kinds of sweaters and shirts and this and that and shit. And so they said, hey, you want a part in the movie? And they got got Robert out and put that guy in. Robert was always pissed about that because he was supposed to be in that movie. But yeah, he was a clothing store owner, and he bribed his way into the movie. A tribe called cookiesfor.com. If we're talking about Red Fox's old house off of Eastern, yeah, it's Eastern and Rawhide. Red had a hidden room behind a false door in his master closet. Wouldn't doubt it, right? Jesse Guerin should know all about that. He bought the house after Red died. He was an Elvis impersonator in town. I think he still is. He's the one who claims that the house is haunted. Huh?
What's that house?
Champion's Handyman Service. Champion Services, something like that's the name of it. It was for a long time. It was Shannon Day Realty, and Shannon bought it after it was Aquatech Pool Company. It was an air conditioning company.
commercial business.
Yeah, they used it as commercial business, and they still are now. So, offices. I guess it's zoned commercial over there. I don't get it.
I was back with you. Didn't see a light flicker in that place.
No, I said a pig in a poke. I didn't say spoke.
Yeah.
A pig in a poke.
P-O-K-E.
P-O-K-E, yeah, pig in a poke. So okay, tribe. Also, he owned jet ski rental places here in town. Man, the stories I can tell you about Rob.
What?
About Red, you mean?
Why did they rent jet skis in Las Vegas?
Red's house had 2 safes, if I remember correctly. Frank said there were 3, but I honestly, I don't know. John McShane, what was Frank's biggest score in Vegas?
Bertha's.
It would have been Bertha's, but they didn't score it, right? Because, so yeah, it was no. Can you imagine how many cell phones would have been out during the crotch scene? Hold on, what? Can you imagine how many cell phones would have been out during the crotch scene if it was today? Cell phones were out. Crotch scene. What are we talking about, Rick? Crotch scene. What are we talking about? I'm going back and looking at his comments. How's Frank's brother? Okay. I said, I don't know. Then he said, can you imagine how many cell phones would have been out during the, in one comment? And then
Can tell you how Frank's brother is? Silence.
I haven't heard anything. Yeah. So, well, Sharon Stone, the crotch scene. That's Basic Instinct you were talking about, man. That's not in Casino, right? That's Basic Instinct. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. We've gone way over today. And we had a good time talking. You guys get the book. Get the book if you're interested in reading it and you want to, look it up. I played the hand I was dealt. Like I said, it's a fun read. It's only like 3 hours, 4 hours to go through that book and take it all in. It's at least that's what it took me. So, well, Red, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
You're welcome.
All right, and
I'm sitting on the porch watching squad cars go by. We're splashing water. It's a drive real thing.
Nice. Well, I hope all's well, and good thing you're okay. And
Like go crazy outside. He loves it out there.
all right, guys. Have a great day. God bless. See you next week, Wednesday. We'll be live again. Hopefully, Red's phone lines will be back up and internet will be working, and can have Red back on the show. You guys come to Vegas. Use the promo code right down here. 20% off. Mob Vlog. All right. Go to Vegas Specialty Tours. Buy your tickets. It's a fun tour. It really is. Don't take my word for it, guys.
You guys ought to take this tour. It was fantastic. I recommend it 100%.
I love the Frank videos. Those were great.
Personal stories.
Yeah,
I mean,
personal
we were
stories.
Very close with Frank Culotta, and you get the vibes as long as you're on the tour. You got to do this.
Oh hell, the best part of my trip out here. Hell
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It's everything about Casino that you wanted to see, and it's cool to see it all.
Being from Chicago, this was like fucking authentic. It was amazing. Awesome. Mwah.
Oh, unbelievable. Adam is just first class, great information, great tour, fascinating. 10 out of 10.
Take the tour, you'll have a great time. You're going to learn a lot, you're going to have a fun time too.
Absolutely great.
It was awesome. I would definitely recommend it. It was good to learn about the history and a lot of things I didn't know.
It was awesome, man. I enjoyed it.
Fan